Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host Sarah, and today I'm joined by someone whose work has been weaving in and out of my life in the most synchronistic ways. The luminous Alexandra Claudia, author of Empress Reclaimed on Substack. If you've been on Substack for any length of time, you know it can feel like a living oracle. Essays appearing at just the right moment, messages dropping in with uncanny precision. And that's exactly how Alexandra's writing has felt for me. 99% of the time her posts show up, I'm sitting there saying, yep, that's exactly what's moving through my world right now. There's this quiet, powerful co-creation happening between so many women on Substack. Women awakening, remembering, shedding, reclaiming. We're scattered across the world, and yet somehow we're rising together, thinking and feeling through the same initiations at the same time. It's this collective braid of intuition and divine feminine energy, and Alexandra is very much one of the voices holding that field. In today's conversation, we explore what it means to truly surrender your old life, to walk through a dark night of the soul, and to come out on the other side with your heart wide open. We talk about the feminine glow-up happening right now, the call of divine union, and why so many women are feeling their masculine counterpart close, and what it means to create your life in partnership with the divine. And one of my favorite parts, Alexandra offers a grounded, accessible understanding of the Akashic records, not as something abstract or mystical, but as a living roadmap of your soul's highest potential. This conversation is intimate, honest, and full of recognition. I think many of you are going to hear pieces of your own journey reflected back. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I am your host, Sarah, and today I'm here with my new friend, Alexandra Claudia, who I met on Substack. And Substack is such a magical place. I've said this in so many different ways, but with Alexandra, I find that her essays pop up and 90% of the time it is so timely for me. I'm like, yeah, that just happened in my life. Or that's exactly what I'm thinking about today. And I feel like there's just this co-creation going on among so many of us on Substack. There are so many divine feminine women who are there in that space, and not just on Substack, but all over the place. It's this collective awakening that we're having, and it's so neat when those synchronicities happen. And it's this mind meld where you feel like, I'm not alone. There are other people who are thinking about these things, and we're all walking this path together. So, Alexandra, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for saying that, because that means something. I never know sometimes if it touches somebody, and I release them just hoping that it does. And so you saying that actually is like, oh, okay. I'm glad I'm releasing these messages and it's resonating with some people out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. And when you don't get that feedback, sometimes it's hard. Okay, I have an inner knowing that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, but without that real world feedback, it's like sometimes you're
Yeah,
kind of wondering, like, is this really
yeah,
what I'm supposed to be doing?
exactly. So thank you for that, Sarah. Honestly, thank you.
So tell us about how you got to where you are today. I'm sure we all have these long stories with dark nights of the soul. So how did you get to be Alexandra today and writing Empress Reclaimed on Substack?
You're right when you said that, like, I know it was probably a long story, and it is, it truly is. Yeah, I don't want to spend, because that would take forever, but it definitely was a dark night of the soul. But I guess the real catalyst was I got a divorce. Technically, we went into separation of like December of 2023. Like it wasn't official, but you start to feel the energy of it, right?
Yeah.
And someone once asked me before, do you think the dark night of the soul is kind of contracted or like there's like a catalyst? And I kind of answered with like, well, I feel like it's both. And when I really look back, yes, it's both, but I do feel like my soul knew it was time to shake things up, like completely do a 360 on my life. I was married, had a house, had a pretty good job, and like everything looked nice, looked
What we're
cookie
supposed to do. Yeah, yeah. You're
right?
following the script that's given to us. Yeah, exactly. Been there.
Right? But inside, I just knew internally, I just knew that something wasn't right. And I couldn't really put it into words. And things honestly just started to unravel. And looking back at it, I do feel like it almost was like contracted. Like up in the clouds, when we look at our life plan and blah 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 blah, I feel like I was like, okay, this moment, this and this and this is gonna happen, and it's gonna be the catalyst, and it's gonna lead me to everything from a old life to dissolve and then go through a dark night of the soul. Like, I guess, deep questions and deep, like, life review and kind of like what I'm doing, etc., etc. So, yeah, I went through that. I left a lot of things and I really surrendered into the unknown. It was my biggest initiation to releasing and not knowing where that was going to take me. And to be honest, Sarah, like I'm still walking. I'm still like, yes, it feels better, it does, but I'm still like, I don't know how things are gonna look like entirely, even in the next few months. I kind of, when I feel into it, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like there's gonna be more change,
Uh-huh.
beneficial changes, but it's still very much in the unknown. And so I started to reconnect with my heart. Truly, I did a lot of heart healing work, more inner child healing, and to be honest, I've always been in this space. Truly, I've worked with so many different people. I've worked with life coaches, and I became a life coach myself. I even had my own business. This was a few years ago, and I just knew something wasn't fitting. And so that's why I said, like, this dark night of the soul and all this stuff was really bringing a lot of things up where I can really look at it honestly and see what was really the missing piece to healing for what people are really looking for. And so, like, that made me start to like question and look for that and reconnect with my heart. And I came to a lot of realizations, and my psychic and intuitive abilities started to come back online because as a child, they were
Wow.
yeah, I didn't know what to do with it because no one helped me cultivate it and understand it, you know?
Mhm.
I didn't really understand what was up. So I shut a lot of it off, and during this course of, like, me coming back into my heart, shedding my layers, healing my heart, blah, 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 I started to, like, open that back up. I still feel like there's more layers to that because I think it's a gradual process of that opening back up, but, like, I started to understand, like, okay, I want to help people come back to themselves, come back to their hearts. And I knew that there were messages inside of me that needed to be released. Cause I don't know about you, Sarah, but I feel like 25 has been a year for everybody.
Such a year.
I feel like no one's walking out of 2025 the same person.
No?
There's been a lot of releasing, a lot of shedding of layers, and it's been a tough year. I am curious, did you experience 2025 that way?
Okay, so my 2025, it was Christmas Day, and I had an experience with a venomous snake. And I feel like that set the tone because it was the year of the snake. Chinese New Year doesn't start until February, but I had
Yeah.
this snake experience in December. And yeah, I thought that and I had done a whole lot of shedding. I had made a lot of positive changes. I was leaning into my intuition. And then 2025 was like, all right, you got more work to do. I almost died, Alexandra. I had a necrotizing fasciitis. I was in the hospital. 2025 was
Oh my
definitely doozy. Oh, I lost my job. Began this whole journey with Goddess in Training. Yes, yeah. And it's a 9-year in astrology, so it's the conclusion. So the
Yeah.
hope is that as we're going into 2026, it's a 1 year.
Yeah.
All of the labor, I feel like it's just been a whole lot of labor in 2025, and tough lessons. There were so many moments where I was like, "Why? Why, universe, do you have to be so dramatic?" Right? Like, I'm kinda done with the drama.
Done with the lessons. Come
Yeah.
on.
Or I'll take the lessons, but let's just have them be a little bit less
Softer.
life-threatening.
Or gentler,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or it's so funny that you say that because I've talked to several people, women especially. I'm sure men have gone through, but to be honest, I've been tapping into something within the feminine collective and the masculine. I do think there's a difference, which is why a lot of women are waking up,
Yes.
which is why a lot of women are saying more boundaries, standards. You
Yep.
can't meet me where I'm at. There's the
Yep.
door.
Yeah.
There's the door.
Yep.
Leave, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, I've spoken to quite a few women and we all have said the same thing. It's like we've been accelerating through the soul school. It's like, okay, here's the lesson. You finished it. You've completed it. Great. Next. And we're like, why do we have to do so much in such little time? Like, hold on, hold on, hold on, right? And there's been a lot of women that have been saying 2024, what are you doing? We're accelerating through this soul school, and it's just been lesson after lesson, integration, alchemy,
But you know what? I talk to so many women, and we are all in this really extremely vibrant state right now. It's not like the
right?
right? I mean, I feel like there's this collective glow up happening, even
Yeah.
though this year has been a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I love it. I do. And I get I will say I know it's not every single woman on this planet, but it is a large like feminine collective that has I guess the ones that have been truly ready cuz I remember and I'll tell you this Sarah like I just felt internally that things were going to be changing for me. And oh yeah, I said this in 2024. So like around the, like, winter months to, like, early beginning of 2024, I was out on a hike. It was a very visceral moment, which is why I remember it. I put my hands up in the air, and I said this out loud. I was alone. I said this out loud, and I was like, "I completely surrender. I'm done trying to control my life. I'm done trying to hold on to things if they're not meant to be in my life." And I said, "You know what? Like if my marriage has to like go down the drain, if everything that I currently have in my life has to just be let go of because it's not for my highest good and where I'm headed, I'm like I surrender." And to be honest, it was such a scary thing because I said everything. Like everything that was currently in my life then I said, "I surrender it. If it's truly not meant for me, take it because
Mm.
you know the best path for me." And yeah, all of it was all of it. I'm like, well, I can't be mad because I did state that. I stated, take it all from me if it's not for my highest, if I'm not living in integrity. And that's what happened. So I do feel like there's been like a collective of women that got to the point of like, I'm ready
Mhm.
to live my best life and live a life that I'm meant to experience, you know? I'm the career or job with whatever that I'm meant to do, the person that I'm meant to be with, the type of life that I really want to eat and cultivate. And so you're right, like the women who have really done the work, who have really shedded, who have really worked on themselves internally, there is a glow up, and I love it. You could so see it. You can see it in women who have reclaimed themselves because they carry like a sparkle in their eye. You can see it in their energy, right? And I think it's beautiful, truly,
I do
right? Like
too. But let me ask you this. This is something that I've been wrestling with a little bit. I also have been through this long surrender and where I feel like I worship myself. I love myself. I love my life. I love everything, right? At the same time, this year and near the second part of the year, I just felt this strong, strong knowing pull that I was meant to have a divine masculine counterpart. My question though is that kind of showed up in this boy crazy kind of way, which seems contrary to, hey, well, I've got this. And I was fine all by myself, but there was just this constant, I had so many conversations like I know this person's coming and I don't know where he is, but it and okay, so I just watched Wicked for Good, the second part of Wicked, and it irritated me because all of the women had these moments where they were boy crazy. And I was just like, why can't we just be powerful in and of ourselves? And then I turned around and looked at myself. I was like, I was a little bit boy crazy. So, do you have any reflections on that?
Well, it's interesting that you say there are a couple points, but first I want to say, is it a show or movie? Wicked for Good?
It's Wicked, that was the musical, and with Ariana Grande, and so it
Oh,
was 2
okay.
parts done by Disney. The first part came out big, it just
Oh,
came out
okay.
over Thanksgiving, the second half of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So it's a movie, right? But you
Right.
watched the musical? Yeah.
No, no, I watched the movie, I've never seen the musical, but it's
Okay.
it's a play off of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay, 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 interesting,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
No, because like, whenever someone mentions something like that, I'm always like, "Okay, maybe I'll watch that just to," because I like gaining sometimes, like, the metaphors or whatever, right, that are in movies. So, I actually resonate with, some of the things you said. So, you know how you said when you were coming back into yourself, reclaiming yourself, like, just coming back into your heart, self-worth, yada, 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 right? And you were, like, not even thinking about relationship or whatever. You know, it's funny, Sarah. Same. I
Yeah.
remember when my life started, my old life started to collapse, and you know, my ex and I knew we were separating ways. And I was like, great. Like, and I still had my job then. So I was like already envisioning what I was going to do because I worked from home. I could work from my laptop. So I was like, I'm going to go maybe to like Bali or Costa Rica,
Oh.
or, and have like a eat, love, pray.
Uh-huh.
And that didn't happen, unfortunately, because my job just dissolved as well, and I was like, "Well, that's something, isn't it?" Like, I really have no control with how everything is moving now, right? And anyway, when I was tapping into this new thing that I guess I'm creating, and I was really focused on, like, myself, my life. I was kind of like envisioning different things. And I remember something came up about divine union, or just like this beautiful high level relationship. And when it first came in terms of like how I'm going to be walking that path, my first reaction was, ugh, no.
Right. 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 Because we've had shit relationships, and so it's like, "There's no way this is actually gonna happen," is what I thought too. I was like, Yeah, right." Yeah, and yeah, I know women have been walking this path and ascending, and I was like, "Are men really? Can they meet us?" I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, "No." I was like, "No, please. No, no, no." I'm like, "Bring me all the goodness in, like, so many different things, in, like, abundance, prosperity, career, heck, friends, like, actual soul-aligned, divine, feminine. Bring that all to me," right? And then the man, I was like, he can, like."
Yeah.
But it's funny, when I started to do more and more work on myself and, like, really unlayering and coming back into my heart, I started to feel like, "Oh, I do want this. Oh, no." And I was feeling into the, wow, the beauty of what it means to be in a, like, beautiful, solid container with somebody which is the embodiment of the masculine, right? When we become so embodied in the feminine, because I guess that does come from when we still operate from our masculine, we're like, well, why do we need a like, I'm
Mhm.
doing it, like, I got me, right?
Mhm.
But when we come more and more into our feminine, Sarah, when I was tapping back into my feminine, I did not want my masculine at all. Like my masculine
Yeah,
side of me, I was
right.
like, I'm gonna vacation in my feminine. I'm good here. And like
Yeah.
obviously we need to at some point come back into balance, but to be honest, I the feminine is so powerful in her creation and her magic and her mystery, and I love it. I love it, truly. So when I started to come back into that, I did start to feel like, "Oh, no, I do crave this. I do crave to have that masculine polarity, that physical representation, and come into harmony and balance." And I did start to feel like I am walking that path of being in that kind of container, being in like a divine, healthy, harmonic union. So it's funny, and I started to feel his energy, like the energy of that person, and I still don't know who that is, but that energy sometimes presses up against me where it's so in the physical, right? And it's funny because well, I'm actually curious, what do you mean by boy crazy? Like, give me that definition of what that means for you.
I think maybe it was just feeling him close because I had a profound psilocybin mushroom trip several years ago where I saw this person and I felt this person. And it was so wild. And so there have been little dribs and drabs since then of basically the universe saying, like, it's not him. It's not him. No. But I wasn't really looking. I mean, I was in kind of a situationship for a while. And and it was really after the summer and after I was in the hospital. I say boy crazy because it was just so present all the time in so many conversations that I had. And maybe it was just that. Maybe I just felt that he was close. And it was that energy that I was feeling constantly. So it was top of mind all the time. And I wasn't like going to bars like, oh, is it you? Is it you? Not boy crazy in that way. Because I was
Yeah,
confident that again, like what you were saying at the beginning, what is meant for me will come to me. I don't actually have to look at all. Yeah.
absolutely. Because that is what the feminine is, right? And the right masculine comes in and meets that, right? Okay, interesting. So I'll tell you what I've been experiencing. I think what some of my other friends are who are walking that same path are experiencing. I'm curious if maybe this is also what you mean, but yeah, I do get that where it's like it's constantly on your mind, and it almost does feel like I shouldn't really be thinking about this, but the thing is it just comes to you, right? It
Right.
just comes to you, and you keep feeling that energy, and it's like in your field. And the thing is that when it's in your field and you feel it more, then you know that you're getting closer and closer to that timeline and that actual physical encounter. But
Mm.
I'm curious if you are also experiencing this. And I think it's also like when women come into their glow up, they're glowing from their feminine, they're becoming a bright light. And I think when you're also close to meeting that person, there are so many men that enter.
Uh-huh.
You experience the same thing?
But that's happened throughout my life. It was so weird. And with our cycles, whenever I was ovulating, I don't think I was doing anything different. And just men online, even who aren't even in my physical space, would just drop in more frequently when you're ovulating, right? And for me, a little bit of that, but I think that my divine counterpart came in so quickly. And in this
Okay.
time when honestly, when I met him, I like was just out of the hospital. I've got a nasty scar on my leg from surgery. I like have staph kind of still in my body on my skin. But I think so I don't think I really had my glow up. But then as soon as I met him though, all of a sudden like it was like whoosh. And people have said even on my podcast, watching me in the last couple of episodes, like, Sarah, you look so different. And so yeah, now there are some people from the past. And when you walk through the stores, you just kind of walk in places and you feel magnetized. in a different way. I can definitely see that once you're in that space, but then you have to use your discernment even more because you're getting all this attention, right? Swatting.
Right? Like, yeah, it's so interesting. I've talked to, like, a feminine friend of mine, and she's it's also the same thing we've noticed. It's like when your light as a woman shines so brightly, we end up attracting everything to us. The
Mhm.
good, the not so good, and it's like, "Oh my god." I work very closely, I guess, with that unseen, or you can say that my, like, spiritual team where I'm like, "Protect me." I don't want these men or anything that to come into my life and into my circle if they're not coming with pure intentions, you know?
Mhm.
And so I have, I don't know if you've heard of it, like that prayer where you, and you could say it in whatever way, shape, or form, like whatever suits you, right? I have my own way of saying this prayer, but I essentially say, like, if this person is not meant for me, remove them out of my life immediately. If they are, beautiful, they can stay, right? If they have pure intentions and we're aligned, they can stay. Yeah. This prayer, it's insane. It works like this. To remove, it's like, all right, the next day we're removing.
Yeah.
To call in, I think that takes longer because obviously, if you've never met that person, like, circumstances need to align and blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, right? But to remove, oh my God, ladies out there, if you're listening, please use this prayer because it works like a charm. Like, it's just insane how quickly this works.
And for me, it's just a belief. It's a deep core belief that I am divinely protected. And since I embodied that, it just happens. When I get in the car and drive somewhere, I can be not totally focused because I just know that I'm going to get from point A to point B. And
Yeah,
if there's going to be something, some kind of danger, I know that I will be drawn to it and I will be aware in the moment that I need to be aware. And same with people too. When you really fully believe that you're divinely protected, you will be.
absolutely. But I do believe, especially when you declare it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because even just thinking before when I wasn't introduced to this prayer and I didn't know about it, it's almost like anybody and everybody can like enter your fields. And obviously, if your discernment is not that sharp, you just kind of allow anybody in. And unfortunately, this is how women get hurt, right? Because we open our hearts, we think that these people are coming in with pure intentions because, they know how to say the right things and blah 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 blah, right? And then, we open ourselves up so much and that person is so attracted to your light, right? And yeah, I don't know, I've seen a difference now that when I use this prayer, like, there's no no man or anything bad can get through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hilarious, honestly. For one guy, I think it was the same day. Like, I used this prayer on him the same day he it was like, say, maybe a week longer because I was like, "Wait, are we sure I just said this prayer and he would show up?" But I was like, "Listen, guys, I'm serious. If this isn't the person, let them leave." And it took a week, but it's funny. It was, like, literally right after I said it finally, and yeah, he also just disappeared. I'm like, "Okay, ciao."
Right.
I don't need anybody who's not aligned, who doesn't have pure intentions, right? Just goodbye. I have been feeling into this because I have noticed there's a lot more male attention. And to be honest, it's not like I want it. I don't crave it. I'm not desperate for it. I really don't care. Like, if anything, it's almost like a distraction if there's too many men around you trying to grab your attention, right? But I have noticed there is a huge difference from the person I was before. I would get attention, but not this much, not on this level, right? And it wasn't that consistent either. And I think it's because I wasn't really operating from my light. I was like
Hmm.
dull, dim, right? But now it's a different story, and It's only been the last couple weeks where there's been an increase of males really, like, being like, "Hey, hey, hey," and I'm like, I saw I want this many I just want that one person because when you are and I'm sure you know, when you're creating something, when you're creating what you love, obviously, you just want that one person to come in and kind of, like, in a way, can help you create that, right? Even energetically or whatever. It's not like you wanna spread your attention to all these different people, right? But I do think that that is a close sign of convergence. But you know, it's really interesting, and I'm only going to bring this up because something has happened to my leg, and me just hearing you. What side was it on,
Oh,
Sarah?
on my right side, with my
Right
right
side.
calf is where I had to have surgery because I had like the worst kind of infection. It was wild. I was in Costa Rica. So
Well, hold on, but
maybe
did
that,
something bite you?
yeah. So I'm working on a project there and building a resort, and I was in the jungle and I had just a normal bug bite. And just this happens in a small percentage of any kind of open wound. The bad bacteria got in there and festered,
Right.
and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Yeah, I needed surgery on it.
Oh my
You
gosh.
don't have it on your leg, Alexandra. Do you have something on
No,
your
no, no,
leg?
no, no, it was a different thing, but what I
Ah,
found very fascinating, and I'll share this story because I actually made a message about it, and it's gonna be released on my YouTube, because I found this fascinating. Yeah, I had something happen to my leg. It's currently swollen. Right now, I actually ended up slipping on some black ice, and I slipped in a very weird way, and I, like, overextended my tendon or something like that, and I'll tell you this, I'm a equestrian rider. I've been thrown off horses, I've been stepped on horses. I've always been in one piece, and here I go, I slip on black ice, and I'm in a cast.
oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Is it
right?
right leg or left leg?
Left leg, left
Okay.
leg.
Yeah.
That is the feminine side,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually remember I was speaking to a friend of mine a month ago, and same thing happened to her. Not that she slipped on black ice, she lives in California, but the way she got out of the car and the seat belt or something, she also hurt her leg.
My God.
And I'm like, "I have to call her because I have to see what leg it was on." And for hers, it was also the left, but she proceeded to tell me, she's like, "You know what's weird? In the last month," she's like, "5 other women within her circle have done something to their leg." And it's interesting, yeah, I was like, this is very, very strange." And when I was feeling into it, I was like, interesting. I feel like us women, because I know her, she feels the same way in terms of, like, she's currently single and she's, like, kinda tired of holding so much on her own, and that's what I was feeling into myself. I'm like, "Wow, I'm tired of just holding the container of everything of," and I'm sure you know as well, all of
Yeah.
us women tend to be like, we're tired of just like holding it all together, right? And for me, I'm like, okay, the left is the feminine side. So I'm like, okay, my feminine doesn't feel supported, right? But yeah, I was tuning into that of like when we're accelerating so much, and maybe this is why it also happened to you, when we're like, we're master alchemists at this point. You know, when you've done so much work and you've healed, you've shedded, you've let go of so much, and we're just like, all right, we're accelerating through this soul school. We have a freaking PhD in it by now, you know? And it really does feel like the women collective, we're master alchemists. We're ready and we've been doing this. And so I was feeling into when it manifests in our body, for example, like it could be the leg, it might not be the leg, but something happens where it almost puts like a
Slows you down.
stall on you, right? Because for example, you're in the hospital, I can't move around.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Very limited. I
Yeah.
can't walk. And for me, by the way, I have a lot of energy, so that is a very hard thing for me to just contain. But what I was feeling in with that is that I feel for the women that when they're close to convergence, obviously it's like you get more attention, like you said, maybe boy crazy in a sense of like you're starting to feel that energy, blah blah blah. But I feel like something like this, the leg thing or whatever, can manifest in a way to like almost put you on a hold and stall because you've accelerated so much where that particular masculine that's ready for you, he has to catch up to
Mm.
you. And if you keep like go, 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 he still has to. Because to be honest, this is what I've been feeling is that men,
Yeah.
they're a lot slower when it comes to this work. They are. And that's not an attack. It just, I do feel like they need almost like a woman to help wake them up, you know? And I've spoken to some men and they've always been like, "Yeah, it was a woman that that helped me, get on this healing journey and realize my wounds." It's always a woman for a man, right? And I just feel like they're a bit slower when it comes to that work. And it's like when you do have like, I guess you could say a soul contract with somebody, with whoever you're meant to be, because obviously if you're feeling that energy, that person is there for you, but it's like we almost have to be put on hold for a little bit. It's great you're master alchemist and you can do all this beautiful deep spiritual work, but there's this man that has to catch up to you, just put you on a pause, put you on a hold so that he can actually come in, right? So was it after the hospital that you met this person?
Well, for me, I think the hospital was definitely a lesson in what kind of love that I want because I was in this situationship with my business
Mm,
partner in Costa Rica and being in the hospital with somebody he didn't leave my bedside the entire time, which, on the surface level, that's what you want from a partner, right?
yeah.
But we had nothing to talk about for 2 weeks. It was painful. It was painful to be in the same space because it made me realize that when you take away all of the physicality and the working on the project that we had, there was nothing else. And so I walked out of it just 100%. That served its purpose. It's done. We're still friends, but I was like, I deserve more, is what I came out of that. I deserve someone who is the ride or die, who will be there and who will have fun in every moment. Even though I was in the hospital, I was like, this could have been fun. We could have watched movies, we could have watched, binge watch all this stuff and have all this, isolated time together. And that's not at all what played out. And so it was an awakening for me. I also am a caretaker and I was okay, and I was aware of how much caretaking that partner needed, but I was like, well, I am so strong and good now. I can do this. And then the hospital told me, no, you can't. You need someone who will take care of you. And so that was the lesson. And I think that's why it happened really quickly because I embodied it. I was like, no, I know now exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And what I was looking for wasn't a physical person. It wasn't even a checklist. It wasn't personality traits. But when I encountered this person who I'm confident is my divine counterpart, it was a feeling. I just felt completely at ease and regulated and calm in a way that I
Beautiful.
had never experienced before, and safe and
Yeah.
taken care of. Yeah.
Mhm. That's awesome. I'm happy for you, Sarah. Like that is beautiful. I get what you're saying because when you've done the role of always like caretaking, overgiving, overextending, we do become used to that role, but it's almost like something in the physical needs to manifest like, no, you deserve to be taken care of, right? And
Mhm.
not overextend, not overgive. You deserve to be.
Mhm. Yeah, and those of us who are leaning into this feminine side and this softness, we require that safety and that softness and in order to reclaim and remember our power honestly.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that you need that polarity and you need that counterbalance in order to really really sink into our divine feminine power.
Yes. See, that's also what I've been tapping into. When we're on our own, we can tap into both polarities, right? Any person on this planet can. Obviously, I do believe when you're in a female body, I do believe we naturally do tend to move into our feminine. It's just our role, it makes sense, right? And also for the masculine, it's like they tend to tap into their masculine polarity more. It's just natural, right? But I feel like both polarities get to fully experience that when they come together because they can kind of drop that polarity, not entirely within themselves, but it's like you have that other polarity, that physical manifestation of that, and you get to dive deeper into your own polarity even more. So you get to experience more of that juice, more of that magic, right?
Yeah.
And and then it becomes like a very powerful and beautiful force.
Hmm. You know what I realized, Alexandra? Before all of this and in previous life situations, I had this realization that I was giving power to people through sex, like through intimacy in a
Yeah.
way that I didn't even really understand. And that I feel like there were some men that I was with who did understand it a little bit, maybe not on the conscious level, but they did understand it. And that was the attraction. And I was completely unaware of the gift that I was giving. And once I realized it, though, I was like, I'm not giving this away to Joe Schmo anymore. I'm going to give
Yeah.
this away only to the most deserving people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're bringing this up about the power that we hold, especially as women when it comes to sex. I don't know if you dived deeply into it, but our womb space, obviously, that's like the essence of creation, right? Like we create
Right.
life from there. But I don't know if you know about this part, but during our menstrual cycle, we're actually releasing trauma and pain within ourselves, within our bloodline, within our ancestral lineage, so our bloodline, but also with the partner that we're sexually active with. So
Uh,
if they don't work on their stuff and they have traumas and pain, our womb is literally taking in that infant, which is like, oh my God, it's so important to have like sexual hygiene because this is what I don't like. I don't like this whole liberation of like, who cares? Have sex with whoever you want. No, ladies,
uh,
don't. Don't do that because you're literally if you don't care and you don't know who this person is on a deep level and you know they're not doing the work, you're literally taking their energy, their trauma, their pain, you're taking it and you're the one who's alchemizing it on their behalf, right?
I'm making
Yeah, it's
faces because I used to be in the swinger world. And so I did a whole shit ton of alchemizing, apparently.
you know, you did, and it's really for someone who's on conscious, like, they can still be constantly living in that trauma. If you're being sexually active with that person, you're constantly taking they're they're still living from that trauma, and you're still taking it, and you're still alchemizing, and this is why for some of us, if you pay attention to your appearance, I know I do, I'm like, if I'm really heavy, I know I'm releasing something really heavy, and I've noticed this, like, when I was going through
Mhm.
my dark night of the soul, I had such heavy periods. I was bleeding through things. And then when I'm like feeling better, I'm lighter, whatever, I have lighter periods, right? And it's if you become in tune with that, you start realizing like, oh wow, like I'm releasing stuff, right? Not that I'm not like I don't give that for me, I'm such a sensitive person and I have a huge heart that like for me I connect really easily. And you know that is how women usually tend to connect deeply with another. But I've become even more strict where I'm like, no. Unless I know that this is the person for me long term,
Mm,
that's the
mhm.
only way that they get access to this temple. Because when you work so hard, right? On yourself, on your heart, and you've really like shed it a lot. You realize like, no, 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 I've put so much value into myself, into my body that you don't allow just anybody in.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, you don't allow just anybody in. It might sound bad, but it's like, no, you need to be worthy. You have to be
Yeah.
worthy.
Right, exactly. Because we need to worship ourselves. And when you worship yourself and you think of yourself so highly, why? Why would I allow somebody who is not meeting me into my life?
Exactly. Exactly. And if you think about like the energy of pain and trauma and whatever that person is doing, maybe they're even using substances, right? Maybe you don't know. I don't know. Right. And it's not, this isn't coming from a place of judgment and criticism, right? Because I get why people do these things. Truly, I get
Yeah.
a way of dealing with their pain and trauma and blah, blah, blah. Right. But thing is, if women are sexually active with a person like that, the energy of that pain and trauma, like it literally lives within you. And I do believe that is something that diminishes your glow. Cause it's like you might not even be aware of what you're walking with on an energetic level that's affecting you in a subconscious way. Right.
Mm.
It's so important. I'm all about, and like, I'm all about keeping this intact. Unless it's a person that they value you, they see your worth, they're doing the work on themselves in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying they have to be fully healed because
Right.
we're all a work in project, right?
Right. Right. That's why we're here.
Yeah, right? Like, but are they doing some type of work on themselves? Because obviously we've all come from a place that we've experienced some sort of pain, some sort of trauma, all of us. All of
Yeah.
us. Every single person. Yes, some more than others. This work is about looking at that,
Hmm.
right? Dealing with that because not one single person on this planet is completely free from that. I just, it's so important. It's part of the, like, also just keeping the boundaries intact, you know?
I'm so curious to ask you, this is a pivot maybe, about your work in the Akashic Records, because it's a topic that I know very little about, and I know kind of surface level that you can go in and read. What exactly are the Akashic Records, and how do you use them in your everyday life and when you're working with other people?
So for me, like obviously there's like something called the Akashic Records, and that usually is all the lives that we have lived, right?
Hmm.
It's like a library, right? For me, I call it that, but ultimately it's when I work with people, I just want to help them understand why they're here. So that's what
Mm,
I'm doing, right? I'm tapping into a certain potential that their soul is holding. Because obviously, there's so many different things that our soul could be doing. Like literally, I was living a certain life, for example, with my ex and where we were living and the life that we were having, but I wasn't happy.
yeah.
I knew deep down in myself that, like, of course I could have pretended. Of course I could have kept living that particular lifeline. And I'm sure in the Akashic records that still exists. You know what I mean? That timeline still exists, but is it for my highest good, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously, there's different lifelines and different timelines of like me doing other things and not this. And this is why when I surrendered, I was like, listen, maybe I don't know. Like, yes, there's like 10 or 20 different paths that I can take. I'm like, put me on the right one. I'm done. It was a surrender of like me trying to figure out what's best for me and me inviting a higher power, a higher force to help guide me, right?
Mm,
So I'm literally constantly in communion with the divine, and that honestly could be just like me seeing certain signs or symbols or me being directed to some place or and truly am in the passenger seat instead of the driver's seat.
yes. Yeah.
And if my spiritual team is like, okay, we're going to be turning right or whatever. And maybe I don't like that right, but I trust it and I go. And so, that's part of a service I offer to people to be like, let me try and help you put you on the right path. Obviously, it's always going to be their decision of whether they do that, whether they agree. But I tap into what it is for their highest good and why they're here and what they're here to create. And then I just give that to them. And then it's their choice. Do they resonate with it? Are they ready for it? Because a lot of the time, what I find is people feel like that highest potential for them is so big and almost so out of reach that it does scare them, right? And they're like, wait, like I like this, but can I actually reach it? And I get it. I get it because me on a certain level also has that of like how big when it is even like honestly, Sarah, when you tap into like your podcast and like how big it can get, there is a part of our old identity that gets scared of that. That's like, wait, am I ready for this? Can I do this? Da, 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 right? And yeah, so I don't know if that helped answer the question, but I just tap into what is for their highest good and what they're here to create because I get it. There can be so many pathways, so many different things. And yeah, it's to help people not feel so lost, you know?
And sometimes you need to hear it multiple times in multiple ways what your purpose is and what you're here to create. I mean, on my own path, I had this dream about this podcast and then made a medium friend who every single time I saw her said something about a podcast. I had never said anything. And now getting more messages about being more influential and even some level of celebrity. And there is a piece of me that's still like, no. And so it's
Yeah.
and to get those messages several times in several different ways. And it's interesting that you kept saying creation too. And is that really what the Akashic records are? Is like all of these different paths that you could take, but ultimately for everyone, our highest purpose always is some degree of creation. Is that true?
Like your own creation.
Yeah, like yeah, are we if we're walking in our highest purpose, are we always creating? I guess is what my question is. I think we are.
So, okay, I believe because creation is free will, right?
Yeah.
It's like you get to create, right? Whatever it is that you want. I believe that we have a mixture of both. But
Mhm.
I do believe we have actually a lot more creation, like, available, like, so our own free will to create whatever it is that we want. But I
Mhm.
do believe there are certain things that are contracted throughout our lifetime. So, for example, like, certain people that it's like you need to meet. You
Right.
need to meet. There's no but that usually comes from, like, those those crazy synchronicities of, like, "I missed this flight and blah, 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 like, this and this happened." You're like, "And I met this person." And again, it could be, like, a romantic partner, it could be a friend or business or whatever, right? It was like you were meant to meet that person that was contracted. It's like no matter what, it's like you couldn't avoid that, right? Or certain, I don't know, job or incident even, right?
Yeah.
Certain incidents that happen or accidents that happen, it's like that needed to happen because that influenced a certain timeline or whatever to open. So I believe there's a mixture of both in there, right? That's up to your own free will and free choice. But the thing is, it's like when I feel like sometimes when we don't have that roadmap, it can feel confusing. It can feel like, well, am I really doing the right thing? Because I experienced that throughout my life. It's like the question, am I really doing the right thing? Am I supposed to be doing this? And you can have so many conflicting feelings to that. And so, again, like what I tap into, it's like a roadmap. It's like there's this highest potential, but it's your choice. Like, are you gonna walk into that, right? And because we have our own traumas, our own limiting beliefs that hold us back sometimes from living that, right? Like, there is a bit of work getting to this path, I believe, truly, you know? For me, it was a lot of surrender work, a lot like, and to be honest, I didn't realize how much of a, I guess you could say, control freak I
Oh,
was. Of yeah, of, like, needing control, of wanting control because control has this illusion of safety, right?
right. But it's a total illusion. Yeah, that's a hard
Yeah,
lesson though.
right?
It's a hard lesson. Yeah.
And I realized that I was actually given certain situations where I was forced, like, I had no choice but to surrender, and I remember I was like, "I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't have control over this." I don't like that. And now that I think about it, I was given like little baby lessons to kind of start embodying or being okay with surrender. And then my whole situation of like letting everything, that was the ultimate state of like, okay, gotta surrender more and more and more. That creation question is coming back to me. I wanted to stop creating by myself.
Mm,
I was getting to the point of like, I'm inviting you in, the divine, God, source, whatever. I was like, I'm tired of trying to create on my own, because I was very rigid with my creations of like, I think it needs to be X, Y, and Z. I think
vision
this is how it
boards.
should go.
Uh-huh.
And if it
Checklists.
and it like, for ex
Yeah.
yeah, and if it didn't, like, go that way, or if I didn't experience the outcome that I wanted, I would get frustrated and be like, "What the heck? Like, am I not a good creator? Like, what is this?" And it was really frustrating, to be honest. It felt like I was doing it on my own, and I didn't like it. And I do think real creation is when you allow the divine in, is when you allow a higher force, which can be scary because it's like you don't know what this force has in store for you, right? And that is that level of surrender of like, okay, you got me. You got me. You have my highest intentions and, everything in mind. You got me. So I became open to creating with that force of not being so prideful or egotistical of like my way, this way. It doesn't go this way. I get frustrated. I get angry. I get this and that, right? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't know. Maybe
Mm,
I don't know. Maybe I don't know the best path or how this is supposed to happen or whatever, right? And so that's the leaning back and surrendering and trusting that you're being held by these beautiful invisible hands that are like, I got you. I know this looks messy, but let me help guide you through. And so I like that idea of like creating with this higher power, right? And then taking this into union, right? If you meet someone on your level, it's like you're no longer just creating by yourself as well, right? You're creating with that other person. And when both of you come together, there is like this third entity, which is the divine, that helps you co-create whatever you guys are creating. And there is a level of surrender to that too.
right.
Of being like, okay, we're entering this union, but let me surrender to what both of you are creating. Maybe we are limited in understanding of what we're meant to create. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, we can have a vision, we can have an idea, we can, want to create X, Y, and Z, but let us surrender into that. Maybe it's going to take us even further. Maybe it's
Yeah.
gonna take us on a different road that we didn't even expect,
Mm,
right? So, does that make sense?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like not being attached to outcomes and being open to all the possibilities because what we understand about the world is so, so tiny. Try to remind myself of that all the time because, when you have those ideas of what you want your life to be like, I think in this point of time where we're starting to think ahead to 2026. It's like, okay, well, what do I want in 2026? That's so limiting to even ask that question. It's more like, okay, 2026 could bring things that I have never, ever imagined before. And let me be open to everything, all of the possibilities, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that it can be scary, right? Because it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Am I asking for too much? Or how's this gonna happen? And that's the part that we do need to surrender into because there is this level of magic and uncertainty that you have to invite in for for us to experience life to the fullest. My belief is like, obviously, we've come from a very all knowing place. On that other side, we manifest things easily. It's easier because it's not a dense reality, right?
Right.
But we've come here to kind of experience everything that we're not, right? And to experience the magic of co creation, the magic of, yeah, I see this, or you have an intention of what you might want to create, but you're allowing the divine to come in and do its magic. And I do think that that is such a beautiful way of living because then you start to have these stories of like, I didn't know that, I don't know, how I was gonna pay my rent that month, but then my business explode, like, you know what I mean? Like, these crazy
Right.
stories where, like, I literally could not tell you how this happened, but it happened, you know? Or I met my counterpart in this way, and you're like, "I literally had no plan for it. I couldn't have told you that that was gonna be the," like, that's that surrender part that becomes so beautiful.
All the time. Happenstance meetings, like, when you open up to them, they just kind of flood in my experience, and it's just everyday magic, and being appreciative of the magic that is around us and in every interaction, and being present, that's the other thing that everyone talks about is when you're fully present, that's when you can actually see the things that are happening. They might be happening already, but you just may not be aware of them because 'cause you're thinking about what's happening next.
Exactly. Either thinking about the past, right?
Mhm. Right,
Holding
right.
on to the past, like, "Oh, woe's me, blah, blah, blah," or yeah, or thinking of the future constantly. That is a big lesson I also had to learn of, like, being in the present, being okay, like, and being okay with sometimes whatever emotions come up in the present, which sometimes can be like, "Wait, why aren't I planning for the future? Why aren't I thinking ahead?" And having that anxiety of like, "Oh no, but I should be doing X, Y, and Z." And sometimes it's like the most beneficial thing that you can do is just be.
Mhm.
And I get it. I get it for those of people that are like, "But I couldn't. I couldn't just do that,"
Right.
because I was like that. And I have a lot of that like fiery energy where I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to like do. I'm ready just like, you know. And I had to learn a lot of humility, a lot of, like, holding myself back and being okay knowing.
Yeah,
Being
exactly.
okay, being in the present moment, and like you said, also just watching the unfoldment, watching the magic, watching the signs come in, because when we open ourselves up to the divine and, like, this co-creation with the divine, it's constantly communicating with us. Like, it's crazy. Like, sometimes, like, my god, you guys are so on point, because I'll tell you this, I'm more expressive with things that come up. I've always been an expressive person, but I've tended to hold back and not, like, vocalize it. But now, even when I'm alone and because I'm, like, in constant communion, I will s talk I will talk out loud and be like, "Guys, I need an answer to this, like, why am I," like, I treat them like my friends, basically.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that sounds crazy, but the thing is, Sarah, I always get some sort of reply. And yes, sometimes it, like, might be crazy, like, maybe I'll see something like a butterfly or whatever, I'm like, "Oh, okay." Or I literally get some sort of reply where, for example, like, I don't know, I'll go on YouTube and it's literally answering what I just, like,
Right. Uh-huh.
was taught, like, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I'm always like, "Okay, you guys are so on point. You guys are really there for me." And this is also why, like, I've become a channel of, when I feel like I need to release a message, I just know that there's someone out there who's probably doing the same thing of, like, I don't know about X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, "Okay, I feel called to make a message because maybe this will touch somebody. Maybe this will answer what someone else is going through currently." Because obviously it can manifest through us, like, we are also the channels, we are connected to source. Sometimes it's even like a friend will call me and they'll tell me about a situation, I'm like, "No way, like, this is what I was, like, thinking about," or whatever, right? And it comes through people, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's so many layers to this, and this is what I mean, Sarah, it's like, we have been so accelerated through the soul school, like I said, because there is a lot of layers to this. There's like learning patience, learning presence, learning how to commune with the divine, humility, surrender. It's a lot. It really
Yeah. So beyond surrendering and being in the moment and healing your leg, is there anything that's coming up for you that you're excited about?
in terms of me feeling into the stuff or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
anything.
like, or do you have any plans for 2026, like business-wise, things that you're kind of on the verge of birthing into this world?
I do have some ideas, but again, because I've been so like in a surrendered state where I do allow, you could say, the hand of God or the divine to help me create, because I really do believe in that. And I don't want to control too much, but it feels like 2026. And I mean, you could also let me know how this feels for you. It feels like for a lot of us who have been shedding, who have gone through the trenches, whenever I feel into 2026, it does feel like there's a lot in store for us, truly. For those of us that have done a lot of work, who, like I said, shedded, alchemized, yada, 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 it feels, and that is kind of what I'm excited about, but I don't want to pinpoint
Yeah.
what that is, right?
Yeah.
That's that surrendered state, because when, if I do, there's that level of disappointment. But when I feel into that energy, it does feel expansive. It does
Mhm.
feel like almost like there's a lot of soul connections is what I feel, and that goes in every department of your life, right? Friendships, romantic relationships, whatever, partnerships, whatever. And it feels like for those of us that have been planting seeds
Mhm.
throughout this year, I do feel like a lot of them are going to be sprouting in 2026. And so I know it might be vague, but I am excited for that energy because I can feel it. I can
Yeah.
feel it's so close, but I'm telling you, Sarah, I've learned, and I kept getting the message of like, stop trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop trying to figure what it's gonna be. What I keep getting the message of like, can we just surprise you? Like, you're gonna love this, but let us surprise you. And I'm like, but I don't want, like, I want to be surprised, but I don't want to be surprised at the same time. Like, can I know just a little bit? And it's like, we'll give you a bit of that energy, but it's like, don't try and figure it out. I'm like, fine, fine, I won't. It's kind of, it's, I think about it in a way of like, how like little kids are like, what am I getting for Christmas? Or what am I getting for
Snooping
my
in the closet.
birthday? And the parents are like, you're gonna like, yeah, you're gonna like it, but can we, like, we don't wanna tell you. Can't you just wait and be surprised? And the kid's like, "No, but I wanna know." But you don't actually, because you'll enjoy the journey of it. So I know it's vague, but I can feel that there's gonna be something, but I don't want to put,
Yeah.
like, this is gonna be it, you know? I'm still living in this very surrender
Yeah.
unknown state, which has been not easy, but I'm still learning to get used to that.
Really. And thank you so much. And I have a feeling that you and I are going to do something else together in 2026. And so I look forward to that coming to fruition.
It's funny. I was feeling the same thing. So yeah, I would love to chat more
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm enjoying your energy.
So thank you so much, Alexandra.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Sashat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapel, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de la selva, madre